Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, I would like to.
You can turn on your camera as well. That
Okay,
will
can you?
be
I'm not sure whether you can see me or not now.
hello.
Hello, can you see me now?
No, no, no.
Because from my side the camera is on. Okay, just give me a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there are some problem with.
You mean any problem with that or something like that?
Yeah, I think I have a problem with my computer. Nothing wrong with the MS Teams because there is an antivirus. It always prevents camera from
Okay,
turning
no.
on.
So yeah, you can tell about yourself and how can you will be benefited from this workshop. You can share about this whatever you want to share.
Okay, wait. So I would like to tell in the meantime, my video will also start. So I would like to tell you a bit more about myself. My name is Surjit and I'm a PhD economics candidate at the Technical University of Ostrava.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I got to know about this workshop from Dr. Anand itself, and he told me about this. And then I was really interested in attending this workshop because, and many of you might have questioned that why the economics student are attending this mathematics workshop and why we are attending the workshop intended towards the fuzzy set theory. So I would like to tell you that basically there are many economists who are widely using the mathematics in their work, or I can say that there are many mathematicians who are using the economic applications in their work. So you might be aware that there are so many mathematicians who won the Nobel Prize in economics. Just to tell you a few, like Professor Kenneth Arrow, Professor Eric Mashkin, and Alvin Lloyd and Alvin Roth as well. They both won the Nobel Prize in, I think, in 2011 for their
Mm-hmm.
work in economics. So in
Okay.
economics, we can use the fuzzy set theory and the economic modeling, economic forecasting, and also in poverty reduction. And also the active branch of the economics that uses a fuzzy set theory a lot is game theory. And
Mm-hmm.
let me tell you a bit more about the game theory. In game theory, there are players who are involved themselves in the strategies. What strategy should they adopt in order to gain the market share? So sometimes we are not sure about the outcomes. What outcomes are we going to get? So we are not sure about the outcomes of the strategy. So we are not sure about the outcomes of the strategy. So we are not sure about the outcomes of the strategy. So we are not sure about the outcomes of the strategy. So we are not sure about the outcomes of the strategy. So we are not sure about the outcomes of the strategy. So we are not sure about the outcomes of the strategy. So we are not sure about the outcomes of the strategy. So we are not sure about the outcomes of the strategy. So we are not sure about the outcomes of the strategy. So we are not sure about the outcomes of the strategy. So we are not sure about the outcomes of the strategy. So we are not sure about the outcomes of the strategy. So we are not sure about the outcomes of the strategy. So we are not sure about the outcomes of the strategy. So we are not sure about the outcomes of the strategy. So we are not sure about the outcomes of the strategy. So we are not sure about the outcomes of the strategy. So we are not sure about the outcomes of the strategy. So we are not sure about the outcomes of the strategy.
Uh,
So we are not sure about the outcomes of the
it
strategy.
seems to me
So
there is some technical issue with the participants. So anyone else from the participants, if you want to say something, maybe it can be feedback because today we have some time to discuss about all this thing. Anyone from the broad participants? I can see some participants from the abroad. So if you want to say something, please come forward and you can share your views, and it can be feedback as well. Yeah, sure. Who is it? Yeah, I can see someone, Devnath. Yeah, you can turn on your camera on and your mic, and you can say something about. Please.
So, this is Dr. Devnath. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You are audible.
Yes, yes. So basically, Manipal is very close to me. So many of my known people are working here. So whenever I got the mail from the Manipal that this nice workshop they are organizing, immediately I got excited and immediately I registered myself. And yesterday and day before yesterday, the first talk was so exciting. And one of my known persons, Suasis, also yesterday talked very nicely. And I am actually working on Fuzzy and Rapset. So that this workshop is helping me a lot. And whatever the drawback I had, rather I have had. So all this now I'm getting clear on it. And in some cases I'm getting some new path also, such that I in future I can do my research in some new light. Rather, I am getting new light on it. So thanks for that. I'm really very happy and I'm enjoying this workshop very nicely. Thank you very much, Anand.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your experience, and thank you that you are working in the such related field and Fuzzy and Upset. So I'm pretty much sure that this workshop is gonna benefit you in your future research or maybe in the teaching. Thank you so much for your views.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the participants? I can see some participants who work especially in Fuzzy and Upset. So please don't be shy. You can give your views in Hindi as well. It's not that a problem because most of our participants are from the India, so that should not be any problem. So anyone else?
So, Anand, sorry to disturb you. I want to speak about me also. I forgot that. I am Devnath Bhattacharya from Andhra Pradesh. Actually, I am working in KL University. I'm working as a professor in computer science and engineering department. I'm basically from Kolkata. I did my PhD from University of Calcutta. Thank you very much for giving the chance to talk. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Anyone else from the participants? Okay, please, Vinay Gautam.
Hello,
Yeah. Please tell
am
me
I
about
audible?
yourself
Yeah,
and how this workshop is going to be benefit to you.
yeah. Firstly, I'm very thankful to coordinators, Dr. Mahesh Kumar Dubey and Dr. Anand, who have organized this informative workshop to all physicians. And myself, Dr. Vinay Gautam, and I'm from Galgotia College of Engineering. So, when I saw the browser of your workshop, there is many applications in fuzzy mathematics. I have already worked with fuzzy mathematics in automata theory and used with category theory. But
Okay.
in workshop, it will be very fruitful to me because there is different type of topics. We can say this the workshop is one in all type workshop. Here we can get fuzzy application, differential equation theory, and in the last lecture from Chakrabarti sir, he described very nicely what is the need of fuzzy set theory instead of set theory. And he extend his lecture to multi-set, rough set, soft set. So every new person who want to join this piece of mathematics, he can get very smoothly the concept of fuzzy set theory and the hybrid structure of the other set theories. So I hope this workshop will give the chance to work with fuzzy set theory and interdisciplinary courses. So Again, thankful to coordinators to give the chance to join this type of workshop, and I pray to this workshop may succeed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for your words, Vinay Gautam. Now I can see our next speaker, Dr. Akil Khan is already with us. So without any further delay, now I would like to hand over this session to Dr. Ashok Kumar Pal to give a brief introduction about our speaker and to just begin this formal session. Ashok sir, please.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Anand. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce our distinguished speaker, Professor Muhammad Akil Khan. Professor Muhammad Akil Khan is an associate professor in the Department of Mathematics at Indian Institute of Technology, Indore, India. He obtained his MSc degree in pure mathematics from University of Calcutta, India, ranking class first. He completed his PhD from Indian Institute of Technology, Kanpur, India. After completing his PhD work, he joined University of Amsterdam, the Netherlands, as a visiting researcher and worked there from September 2009 to August 2010. Before joining Indian Institute of Technology, Indore, he worked as a postdoctoral fellow at the Institute of Mathematical Sciences, IMSC, Chennai, India, from November 2010 to March 2011, and as a Marie Curie Fellow at Fraunhofer SIT, Darmstadt, Germany, from May 2011 to April 2012. His research interests are model logic, rough set theory, and its applications. He has published several articles in very high reputed journals like Information Sciences. He has edited a book, Logic and its Application, in 2019. He is reviewer of several reputed journals like Information Sciences, International Journal of Approximate Reasoning. Also, he is program committee member in the fourth Rough Set Theory workshop associated with the Joint Rough Set Symposium, Canada, 2013. Program committee member in the International Joint Conference on Rough Set, IJCRS, 2015, Jeju, Iceland, Korea. Now, without further delay, I would like to hand over the session to Dr. Muhammad Akil Khan, sir. Welcome, sir. Akil, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Vivek.
Yeah.
Now you I'm audible. Yeah. So thank you very much for nice introduction.
Thank you, sir.
It's still 2:52. So should I begin my presentation or wait till 3 o'clock?
I think you can start, sir.
Yeah. So I can start. Okay. Okay. So I hope my slide is visible to all of you.
Yes, it is.
Yes, sir, visible.
Yeah. So I'm not sure whether how many participants are have the background on rough set theory and model logic. So since it's not possible to present all the background required for this talk, so you can interrupt me. I will try to give a basic idea, but you can interrupt me if you feel that I need to give more explanation for any part. Okay. So as you can see, my talk has two parts: rough set theory and model logic. And these two are very different areas. So in this talk, there are of course a very different area, but some connections are there as well. So in this talk, I will try to show how these two areas are related. And in the process, I will try to present some of the model logic which are introduced to study rough set theory. So let us begin with the model logic. What is the model logic? Actually, if we are familiar, most of us may be familiar with the propositional logic and the first order logic. So model logic is something that lies between these two. Lie between these two in the sense that more expressive than the propositional logic, but less expressive than the first order logic. And the good thing is that it is more expressive than propositional logic, but we compromise with the expressibility power of the model logic if we compare it with the predicate logic or first order logic. But the advantage of this model logic over the predicate logic is that it has some nice property which we don't have for first order logic. For example, it is mostly it is decidable, which is not the case with the first order logic. So let us see present the syntax and semantics of this logic. So as I said, if you want me to be a little bit slow, or if you want me to give more explanation on any of the points, please interrupt me. So propositional logic, if we recall, the well-formed formula propositional logic is formed through the propositional variables using Boolean connectives. Boolean connectives means negation, conjunction, and disjunction, and of course arrow. So in addition to negation and conjunction, we have one more model operator in model logic, which is called box alpha. I have highlighted over here. So it's extension of the propositional logic with one unary model operator. So the language what I have presented here is just the basic model language. We may have more complex language by having more than one model operators. Here this model operator is unary model operator. So instead of unary, we may have n-ary model operator, 2-ary, 3-ary. So it depends on what kind of thing we want to talk about, and accordingly we keep our language. So for the moment we restrict ourselves to the language with unary model operator box. And as we know, using this negation and conjunction, other connectives like disjunction, implication, we can define it through using negation and conjunction. Moreover, the dual of these box operators is the diamond, and since I have said it's a dual, it can be defined using this negation, box, negation. So this is the language of the model logic. So am I getting comments or something? Because there's a beep in between. Okay, so it's I have presented the language of the logic. Now next thing is semantics. Semantics means what we can express through this language. So it is going to be based on a tuple which is called frame. What is frame? Frame is a set along with a binary relation. And in literature, the elements of W has different name depending on what kind of area we are working. It has name. Elements of W are called states. In epistemic logic, it is called states. In rough set theory, the elements of W are called objects. If we are working with temporal logic, then the elements of W represent time points. And what is a model? Model is frame along with a valuation function. What we mean by valuation function is a function from the set PV of propositional variables to the power set of W. So what's the idea here? If we have some knowledge about the propositional logic, then you can recall that in propositional logic, each propositions are given truth value. Proposition is true or false. So this semantics can be visualized as these propositional variables can be true in some elements of W, but may be false at some other states. So we determine where this propositional variable is true and where it is not. For example, if X belongs to PV, it means at the state X, propositional variable P is true. And if Y does not belongs to VP, it means the propositional variable P is not true at the state Y. So truth is relative to the state where it is being evaluated. This is the idea. This is the deviation from propositional logic. So next is satisfiability. Satisfiability of a well-formed formula. It is defined inductively. So a propositional variable is true at W. It means if and only if W belongs to VP. That is, the propositional variable P is true at W. Negation is to, interpretation of negation is not. So a well-formed formula negation alpha is true at W if and only if alpha is not true at W. And this conjunction alpha and beta is true at W if and only if both and beta. So if you see the first three properties, it is like a propositional logic case. Proposition, suppose P is true at W, then negation P will be false at W. This is what happens at propositional logic. If proposition variable P is true, then its negation is false. Same way, if P is true at a state W, then at the same state, negation of P will not be true. Similarly, if you remember, a well-formed formula alpha and beta is true in a propositional logic if and only both with the same idea alpha and beta is true at W if and only both alpha and beta is true at W. So this is just the extension of the basic propositional logic idea. The deviation main part is yes.
Sorry to interrupt you. I can see in the first line it is written that P is a formula of W, and in the third line, what does this comma means? Is something different or what it is?
No, this is a typo. This is a typo. Thanks for this MW. This comma is extra comma. It's
okay,
a typo.
Okay.
It's just a typo. So please ignore this.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks for pointing out. Yeah. So box alpha, when box alpha will be true? Box alpha will be true if and only if all objects which can be reached from W using relation R in one step, at all those objects alpha need to be true. So in order to check MW whether MW satisfy box alpha or not, what I will do, I will first see all the states which can be reached from W using the relation R in one step. And at all those steps, alpha need to be true. So it's an inductive definition. To find the truth of box alpha at W, we will have to use the truth of alpha and so on. If you unfold the dual connective diamond alpha, what is diamond alpha? If you remember, it is negation of box, negation box, negation alpha. If you unfold all the definition, first four definition, then its truth satisfiability relation will be like this. Diamond alpha will be true if and only if, again we have a typo here, MW it will be. So diamond alpha will be true at W if and only if there exists at least one W prime which can be reached from W using the relation R in one step such that alpha is true over there. So if anyone has question at this point, let me know. Otherwise, I am moving ahead.
Sorry, sir. Sir,
If anyone,
yes, sir. At end of your presentation, we will start the query session. So now you can smoothly
Okay.
present your topic, sir.
Okay, fine.
At the end, we will put such kind of session.
No, I mean, if anyone has question, they can interrupt me. I don't have any problem. I
Okay,
actually
okay,
like
sir.
that one. So, I want to be more interactive. It's
Okay,
fine. Okay.
okay.
So we can have a question and answer session at the end. Fine. Yeah. So a well-formed formula is valid if and only if model M and object W alpha is true at W. What's the idea? If you see propositional where a well-formed formula P or negation P, P or negation P, doesn't matter what model you take, what state you take, P or negation P is going to be true. So this kind of well-formed formula is known. On the other hand, there we may have some well-formed formula which may not be valid, but it is satisfiable in the sense that there exists a model M and a world object W such that the well-formed formula is true over there. For example, consider a simple well-formed formula propositional variable. Propositional variable is not a valid well-formed formula. I can easily give a model and an object such that MW does not satisfy P. For instance, take any model and take VP equal to singleton set X, and you take any another set Y. So of course at Y, P is not true. So P is not a valid well-formed formula. But P is satisfiable because in the model just I have given you, P is true at X. So such a well-formed formula which may not be valid or may not be valid, but at least there exists a model M and object W such that the well-formed formula will be true over there. Such a well-formed formula is called satisfiable. For example, if we consider P and negation P, this well-formed formula, it doesn't matter what model we take, what object we take, P and negation P is not even satisfiable because W belongs to VP if and only if W does not belongs to does not satisfy alpha. So you cannot have a same object W where both P and negation P is true. That is, P and negation P is not a satisfiable well-formed formula. So this is the very basic idea of model logic which I have tried to present it. Now, depending on area, our requirement, we can fix certain condition on frames. For example, in frame we have only one relation over the set W. So one can impose different properties on the relation. For example, we can take relation to be an equivalence relation, which is known as S5 frame, symmetric, reflexive, reflexive symmetric, tolerance relation. So depending on our requirement, one can impose different conditions on the relation and we get a different frames, and that frame will give us a different model system. So this is what I have presented is a very basic idea of model logic. As I said earlier, the language I have considered only one unary model operator box and it's dual. A more generalization will be the case where you have more than one model operators. Even your model operator not necessarily be a unary model operator. It can be 2-ary, 3-ary, depending on our requirement. But for the moment, we restrict to the language with only one model operator, unary model operator. And this operator has different reading in different logic. For example, in epistemic logic, box alpha is read as agent knows alpha. That is, alpha is known. In epistemic logic, we usually express the idea of knowing something. So we reason about the things like agent knows alpha, agent knows that it knows alpha, and so on. So in epistemic logic, we usually don't use this box. Instead, that use the operator K for knowledge. In analytic reading, box alpha is read as alpha is necessary, and diamond alpha is possible. So it means alpha is necessary, true, alpha is possible. So if you see the semantics, I said that box alpha is true if and only if all objects which can be reached from the point where we are evaluating, their alpha need to be true. So whatever the points, suppose we have a point W and W or W prime is related, then one can say that this at the state W, W prime is a possible state. That is, agent consider W prime to be a possible. So if box alpha is true there necessarily, it means all the possible state alpha need to be true. And box alpha, diamond alpha, that is alpha is possible, we will say, if at least one possible state is there where alpha is true. This is the idea. Temporal reading, in temporal logic, box alpha is interpreted as alpha will always be true, and diamond alpha, alpha will be true at some point in the future. And their box is instead of box we use G for box. So, and diamond is replaced with F. So usually G and F operator is used instead of box and diamond. And in rough set theory, box alpha represents the lower approximation of the concept and diamond the upper approximation of the concept. So in today's talk, we will rough set reading, that is lower approximation of the concept. So at this point, the natural question is now what is lower approximation, what is upper approximation? So we are going to move to these points. So I have tried to cover these model logics things very briefly. I hope you have some idea. Pollock's rough set theory. Let us recall some basic concepts related with that one. So in Pollock's rough set theory, knowledge is understood as the ability to classify objects. How we classify objects? These are actually, classification is done through a partition or an equivalence relation. So we are given a set of objects on which we want to study, and we are provided a classification, a partition of that objects. The idea is that if two objects belongs to the same equivalence class of the partition, it means with the knowledge we are provided, we are not able to distinguish these two objects. On the other hand, if the object belong to different classes, then with respect to knowledge, what we have, what is provided with the partition, these two objects are distinguishable. I give through an example. So suppose we have the domain consists of 5 objects, O1, O2, O5. So a partition is given, this one. So if you see this partition, it means we have our knowledge base is this one. We have this much information only. So with this information, O1 and O2, they belong to the same equivalence class. So it means these two objects we are not able to distinguish. For us, with respect to the property what we are given, with respect to the knowledge what we have, O1 and O2, and in fact O3 as well, these three objects are indistinguishable. They correspond to the same entity. On the other hand, O4 and O4 is distinguishable from O5 or O1, O2 and O3. So this partition is our knowledge about the universe U. So what we have seen that the two main points are here. Knowledge is we have a domain on which the elements of which we are interested on, and the knowledge about the domain is given through a partition, and we know that partition can be identified with an equivalence relation. So the basic ingredient of the rough set theory, the whole rough set theory is based on this simple notion of approximation space. What it is? It's a tuple consisting of set of objects and an equivalence relation. Instead of partition, I have written an equivalence relation, but both are identifiable. Whether you take equivalence relation or partition, it's going to be the same thing. Now at this point, a natural question one may ask is, okay, mathematically it's approximation space, knowledge is given through by an equivalence relation, but can we give a practical realization which explains how we are going to get this relation? So in order to do that, I present the simple notion of information system, which is a practical realization of approximation space. What it is? It's simple, a table. simply a table where the first column gives the objects O1, O2, O3 are objects, and the first row represent properties or attributes. So here it is diploma. In this example, it is diploma, experience, reference. And then all these entries give the value of this attribute for each object. So object O1, it may be a candidate. Candidate 1 has an MBA diploma, has a medium experience, excellent reference, and so on. So mathematically, what is information system? Information system consists of this tuple where you have a set of objects. U is the set of objects, the first column, and a set of attributes. The first row give you the attributes and attribute values. So here you have attribute values. So for each attribute, you have a set of attribute values. And so for diploma, MBA, MCA, these are experience, medium, and low is attribute, and so on. This function F determine what value an object is going to take for an attribute. That is, F is a function from U cross A to union of VA, such that Fxa belongs to VA. Why we require this condition? Because if in diploma I cannot put this low as attribute value, it will not be relevant. So for each attribute should come from the VA, corresponding attributes only. So this is the idea of information system. Now, given an information system, we define So given an information system, we define an attribute set, we define relation, indiscernibility relation. So two objects are related with this intuitive and if they have the same description about each attribute from the set B. Mathematically, X and Y belongs to in B if and only if f of Xa is equal to f of Ya for all A belongs to B. What does it say? It says that object X and Y has same description about all the attributes in B. So in this, if we see O1 and O2, and we set the attribute set to be diploma, experience, reference, then O1 and O2 have the same description. Both have MBA, both are MBA, both have medium experience, both have excellent reference. So these two objects are related. We cannot distinguish these two objects. On the other hand, O2 and O3 are not related, as we can see. So even in one attribute they're different, then they will not be taken as a related one. So this way, this indiscernibility relation is defined. So two objects are related with this indiscernibility relation if and only if they have the same description. And one can easily verify that indiscernibility relation is an equivalence relation. So what we obtain, given an information system and attribute set, we obtain an approximation space. So this is why I have said this is a practical realization of approximation space. Here I just want to add here that even if you start with an approximation space, I will be able to, one can easily construct an information system such that corresponding indiscernibility relation will coincide with the relation of the approximation space. So it's a both. You can go from information system to approximation space, and as well as from approximation space to information system. So this is the idea of information system and approximation space. Now, what we want to do. So suppose we are given a set of objects and we are given a partition. So the object set of objects now is viewed as a cluster like this one. Different equivalence classes are there. Now you give any concept. Concept is usually given as a subset of the domain. For example, X is a subset of U. So we have this picture. X is some concept and we have this partition. Now the question is, can we describe the set X using equivalence classes and set theoretic operation of complementation, union, and intersection? So I repeat my question again. Given any subset X of U, can we express the set X using these equivalence classes and the operation of complementation, union, and intersection? In general, in terms of information system, it will be like same question I can rephrase as, given a subset of the domain, can we express X as a union of the properties, attribute properties, and the operation of union, intersection, and complementation? In general, need to approximate X. How we approximate is, to do that we use the idea of we use lower and upper approximation. So in order to define that one, just let's see this picture. This equivalence class, you consider any equivalence, we can have three situations. One, the whole equivalence class will contain inside the set. Two, the whole equivalence class will lie outside the set. And third, the equivalence class will have a non-empty intersection with the set, but it is not totally contained in the set. If the whole equivalence class contained in the set, then it means all the objects belonging to the set are instances of X. In that case, those objects are taken inside lower approximation. That is, these objects are certainly an element of X. On the other hand, if your equivalence classes lie outside, it means these objects are certainly not an element of X. Problem is with those objects whose equivalence class have non-empty intersection with X, but it doesn't lie inside X. These elements are called undecidable elements. Undecidable in the sense that these elements has possibility to be an element of X, but we are not certain because these elements has non-distinguishable elements which are not instances or maybe instances of X. So the union of all the equivalence classes which totally lie inside the set are called lower approximation. Lower approximation gives those objects for which we are certain that it's an element of or instances of the given concept X. There is yellow region which consists of those objects whose equivalence classes have non-empty intersection with X but does not lie inside X are called boundary elements, undecidable elements. And these undecidable elements along with green, that is lower approximation, constitute the upper approximation. That is, objects belonging to upper approximation has possibility to be an element of X. On the other hand, the elements which lie outside the upper approximation, for these elements, we are certain that these are not element of the concept. That is, these are negative element of the set X. So this is the basic idea of rough set theory. In rough set theory, our knowledge base is given as an equivalence relation over some set of objects. Based on that relation, you give any subset of the U. The universe or domain is divided into three parts. First part consists of elements for which we are certain that these are element of the set. Second part consists of those objects for which we are those objects which have possibility to be an element of X, but we are not certain. And third part for which we are certain that these are not element of X. So this is the very, very basic idea of rough set theory. This is what I have given the definition mathematically. So lower approximation consists of those objects whose equivalence class totally contained in the set, and upper approximation those objects whose equivalence class have non-empty intersection with X. And the operator which map a set to its lower approximation is called lower approximation operator. Similarly, we have the idea of upper approximation operator. Okay. There is one another operator studied, which is a knowledge operator, but I am not going on that one. So I have given the basic idea of rough set theory, model logic. So next question is how these two are related. Or I can say, can we define a model logic which can be used to reason about these operators? So many of us must have observed that there is a close connection between the model logic and rough set theory. The first connection is that approximation is nothing but a frame with an equivalence relation. And that type of frame is called S5 frame. So approximation space is nothing but S5 frame. I will say approximation space is mathematically equivalent to S5 frame. Reason is that although they are mathematically same structure, but their motivation is very, very different. Pollock's idea of approximation was very different. Motivation was very different from the motivation of these S5 frames in model logic. So let us, this note we use to define, this one is called the truth set of alpha. It consists of all those objects where alpha is true. Now, before going to that one, observe that what will be the truth set of negation alpha? Truth set of negation alpha will be the complement of truth set of alpha. That's why I said negation captures the complementation or not. So truth set of negation alpha is complement of truth set of alpha. Similarly, truth set of alpha and beta is going to be the intersection of truth set of alpha and truth set of beta. That is alpha and the operator conjunct captures intersection. So what about the truth set of box alpha?
There is a question from the participants. What is S5 frame?
S5 frame is a set and along with a equivalence relation on that one. So just yeah. So I said different classes of frame. So frame means a relation over a set. And depending on the relation, type of relation, we obtain different classes of frame. So if we take relation to be an equivalence relation, then this type of frame is called S5 frame. I hope it's now clear.
Yeah, now it's clear. Yeah.
So mathematics is nothing but approximation space. Yeah. So as I said, negation and conjunct corresponds to the operation of complementation and the operation of intersection. And box alpha, if you unfold this definition, it will be the lower approximation of the truth set of alpha. And diamond alpha's truth set is going to be the upper approximation of truth set of alpha. It means box corresponds to lower approximation and diamond corresponds to upper approximation. And this is why, if you remember at the very beginning slide, let me go to there again. This is why I said here that box alpha correspond to lower approximation and diamond alpha upper approximation. So I hope now it's clear why we have this ready. Okay, so box correspond to lower and diamond correspond to upper approximation. In other words, you can say now we have obtained a logic using which we can reason about the lower and upper approximation. Using the language which we can talk about the lower and upper approximation. So it seems that our search for logic for rough set theory ends here. In fact, this was the observation. Rough set theory come into existence around 1980s. The first, as far as I remember, 80 or 81, the first paper on rough set theory comes. But this observation that S5 system correspond to this one comes immediately because it's a very natural. So it looks like the search for a suitable logic for rough set theory ends immediately. But it is not the case. With time, we have obtained a family of logic introduced to study the rough set theory, some of which we are going to see today. But before going to that, I would just like to add a few things. First is that till now, whatever I have presented on rough set theory, I have taken R to be an equivalence relation. So a natural question, why to restrict on equivalence relation? Why not the other type of relation? In fact, with time, researchers have observed that it's a very restrictive condition. There are many practical situations where the knowledge base need not to be represented by an equivalence relation. We may require some other type of relation, for example, tolerance relation. So you can find in literature various generalization of rough set theory by considering various other type of relation. The operator lower and upper approximation will be a natural extension of what we have just presented is going to be replaced by Rx. Rx consists of all those objects which can be reached from X by the relation R in one step. So this is a natural generalization. And depending on what types of relation we are considering, you obtain various properties, different properties for these operators. If anyone is interested, I will suggest you to go through this Yao paper, where you will find all various type of approximation operator by considering different type of relations, their connection with the corresponding model system and their properties. So this is a very good paper for beginners who want to get some knowledge. So I was talking about the logic for rough set theory. As I have said earlier, the very first formalism of the model logic for rough set theory appears in 1981 itself by Orlowska. It was immediate that model system S5 captures lower and upper approximation operator. But Orlowska did something else, added something else. Instead of unary model operator S5, he considered a number of polynomial S5 models. That is, they have a number of unary model operators instead of S5. And they index these model operator with some indexing set. And so when we evaluate the Wellform formula, suppose box A we are using, then to evaluate box A, we require a relation RA. So he also considered some operation on these relation as well. So suppose RA is there and RB is there. So Orlowska consider RA intersection RB, the relation corresponding to the set A, B. So some operation on knowledge base as well. The idea was that with basic information, basic knowledge, we can do some kind of operation on the knowledge here relation to obtain more knowledge. With this idea, the logic was proposed, and it's nothing but a polymodal version of S. But later on, more sophisticated systems are defined. I just present another one. So what we have seen? What we have seen is that first we have seen that AS5 model system is enough to capture lower and upper approximation operator. Then next idea comes that okay, we will have a family of knowledge base, and we will do some kind of operation on this knowledge base to obtain new relations, new knowledge base. So Orlowska's first proposal comes where Orlowska considered the operation of intersection over the relation. Thereafter, a very famous, well-known data analysis logic was proposed. And in that family, we can see this structure is considered where we have a family of relation instead of one W. And over this family of relation, two types of operations are considered. One is intersection and another one is reflexive transitive closure of RA union RB. Actually, if you see, each relation is equivalence relation. And union of two equivalence relation is not necessarily be an equivalence relation. So the reflexive and transitive closure of RA union RB is considered instead. The well-formed formula will be, of course, it's a multimodal version of multimodal language. That is, set of propositional variables will give us the basic atomic well-formed formulas. Then we have Boolean connective of negation and we have a number of modalities index with each element of this set, REL set. And when we evaluate this box A alpha, then we require a relation. So which relation to consider? This one is determined by A and this mapping MA. So MA tell us which relation to use to evaluate these well-formed forms. And hence, if and only this relation MR, object which can be reached by the relation MR from W in one state, at all those states alpha need to be true. If you see in this language, these model operators are not independent. They need to be related. Why? Because the relation need to have these properties. And as a consequence of this logic decidability status is still open. Moreover, we don't have Hilbert style axiomatization of this one. We don't have axiomatization for this logic. And the problem is that as far as intersection, that is fine, but we get stuck with this operation. Later on, there are many attempts to solve this problem, to obtain an axiomatization of this logic, but I don't know any work which have completely resolved the issues, although there are some works which have partially answered some of the questions or obtained the axiomatization with some modification. So one of them was that one such a case is the axiomatic DEL with a nominals. What is nominal? Actually, in model logic, one have this one can add a feature of naming to objects through the nominals. So such a feature was used by Gargov to obtain a axiomatization for this logic. But of course, we thought this nominals axiomatization is not possible. I mean, it was not proved. Thereafter, one variation of DAL was data analysis logic with local agreement. It was also done by Gargov. And what was the idea? Two relation is said to be in local agreement if for all object Rx is contained in R prime X or R prime X is contained in Rx. So obviously, if one relation is contained in another relation, then relation will be in a local agreement. But if two relation are, but we don't have the converse. That is, we may have two relation which are not contained, one doesn't contain another, but they may be in local agreement. So once we have add this idea, what happens that R union R prime become a transitive relation. Once it becomes a transitive relation, then this one, we don't need to add this transitive and reflexive closure there. We can simply take as RA union RB. If you see this definition, here we have taken it to be transitive and reflexive closure. But once they are in local agreement, this transitivity property will come automatically. So this one will just reduce to union of RA union B. Once we have this, axiomatization problem is resolved. We obtain an axiomatization problem which consists of S5 axioms and these two axioms, which relates this operation with the individual index.
What is union star here? Is something complement or what it is?
Which union?
In the second bullet, you have written square with A union star B alpha. or maybe R A
Uh,
union star B. So this union star is something complement of intersection, or what it some
oh,
exactly.
this formula box A union star B alpha.
So what star?
This this well-formed formula is just a syntax. It's nothing else.
So just not.
So it's just a syntax. So if you see the well-formed formula formation rule, just a minute. Formula for each element of REL, you have a box A. Okay, so A union star B also an element of REL. So the corresponding box is A union star B. So it's just a syntax.
Okay, thank you.
It's just a symbol, nothing else. Now, so I will request to interrupt me 10 minutes before so that I will plan accordingly.
Okay, you can continue. No problem.
The language of, if you see the language DAL and DALA do not have access to the sets of attributes. So you see, we started with the model system S5. Then some researchers thought that index it with some kind of operation, index it with and do some kind of operation relation to obtain new relation. This was one idea, and I have given example, one or two examples. Now there is another set of ideas. One was interesting, Oloska. She says that, you see, when I say that two objects are distinguishable or indistinguishable, we doesn't mean it to be absolute, but we mean it to be a relative to certain attributes. For example, if we have two toys and we say that these two, we are considering the shape and color of the two toy, and both the toy are of blue color, but shape is round and another one is square. So if we consider attributes to be shape, these two are distinguishable because one is square, another one. But if we consider the attribute to be color, these two objects become indistinguishable because both of them are same color. So she says that whenever we say two objects are distinguishable and indistinguishable, we mean it related to a point, related to some attributes, and that attribute should also be reflected in the logic. Logic should also capture that idea as well. So based on that one, she proposed to consider to propose logic based on this notion of information structure. So what is informed? We will have a set of domains and a collection of relation corresponding, we index with power set of A. That is, for each subset of attributes, I will have a relation. But each set of attributes, we are going to have a relation, but we know that this relation, that is B union C, is not going to be independent. It needs to be dependent on RB and RC relation, which is actually RB union C. RC. Actually, if you see the indiscernibility relation definition, the relation we are going to get. So she wants to have these properties. RB is an equivalence relation, W cross W, and R of B union C equal to RB intersection RC. Now you may ask, okay, fine, this property R of B union C equal to RB intersection RC is taken because this is the property of indiscernibility relation. But why R5 is taken to be W cross W? Reason is that the knowledge what we have is through attributes only. If we don't have attributes, our knowledge is nil. That is, if we don't consider any attributes, we are not able to distinguish any objects. So all object is going to be indistinguishable without attributes. That's why R5. R5 means attribute set is empty. It's going to be the relation W cross W. That is all pairs of objects are indistinguishable. So this was the idea, to consider R5 equal to W cross W. Fine. Oloska suggested to have a logic based on this structure, but she herself was not able to find axiomatization of such a logic. It will remain open. at that time. Later on, what happened? A new method of technique came, the technique of copying to obtain axiomatization. That technique was introduced by Vakarelov. And using that technique, Balbiani was able to obtain an axiomatization of a logic for information structure, this one. So this problem was resolved by Balbiani in this book, in this paper. In fact, he doesn't confine to this information structure. It was one of the case only, but he proved axiomatization of a logic, and those family of logic is known as model logic with relative accessibility relation. Why relative accessibility relation? Because model operators are indexed with some set, and these sets have some kind of relationship. In information structure, the relationship is one relation is this one. So he Balbiani given axiomatization of a family of model logic with relative accessibility relations, and as a byproduct of that work, one also obtained axiomatization for a logic of information structure. So that is done. Now my question is information structure suitable for studying complete information systems, that is information systems? Because now attribute has appeared in the language. So answer is, if we are only interested in indiscernibility relation, then the answer is yes. But information system, if you see, it is not only the relation, it is more than that. Just let us go back to this information system. It's not only relation, it also gives you description about the attribute values, what object, what attribute value an object take for an attribute. So if we really want to capture information system, this attribute values should also appear into the picture, which is not happening in the structure, information structure. So from here, researcher, based on this point, researcher has also attempted to propose logic where attribute values also appear into the language. So few of them is logic DL, decision logic. So the language, if you see, it's a Boolean language, I will say, propositional logic language, except the difference that in propositional logic we have propositional variables. Instead of propositional variables, here we have descriptors. What is descriptors? It's a tuple of the form A comma V, where A is attribute and V is the attribute value. So it says that objects take the value V for the attribute A. This is the interpretation. And with this atomic well form formula, we use Boolean connectives to form more complex well form formula. So in this object language, one can say things like objects take the value V for the attribute A, and the same object take the value U for the attribute B. Object does not take the value V for the attribute A, and so on. This kind of is what one can do in this language. So satisfiability is semantics is based on it is expected, because we want a logic for the information system, and this one is true. Is AV is true at W if and only if object take the value V for the attribute A. This is what I have said. Okay. And axiomatization consists of propositional logic axioms along with these two axioms. What does this axiom say? This axiom says that you cannot have an object which take the two values V and U, because each object take exactly one value. That's why. So you cannot have an object which take two values, and this property say that each object take one value. So if you take these two axioms, then it precisely says that each object take precisely one attribute value for each attribute. Now, see, this language has some limitation. First limitation is that we cannot talk about approximation because we don't have box in the language. So you can talk about only attribute values, but not the approximations. Moreover, if you use the satisfiability relation at evaluation of well-formed formula at object W, we are going to stay over there only. We will not be able to move from one state to another state. Reason is that this box operator was the only operator which we require to move from one state to another. But here we don't have the box operator. So the whole truth thing is going to be based on the state where we are evaluating. So this was the limitation. Thereafter, one another dynamic information logic. I don't remember exactly the name, DIL. I just forgot it. But anyway, this logic was proposed and their descriptor was of this form. Earlier, previous system, it was tuple AV, but now here object also come into the picture. So interpretation of this one is that object X take the value V for the attribute A. Now with this one, this type of well-formed formula now is evaluated in a system where you have time points. And each time point is associated with an information system. And there is a relation on the time points. So T is the time point, R is the relation on time points, and each time point is now indexed with each time point is has an information system. And all the information system of system is going to be based on same set of attributes, attribute values, and objects. So only the truth attribute value assignment is going to be vary from time to time. This system also has a sound and complete deductive system, but again, since we don't have model operator for indissolubility relation, we will not be able to talk about lower and upper approximation in this language as well. So this was again a limitation for DIL logic. Thereafter, we have another logic NIL proposed by again Oloska and Pollock. This language has contained descriptors, and this language has model operators to capture the inclusion approximation operator corresponding to inclusion relation, inverse relation, and similarity relation. And it was for non-deterministic information. So this logic was proposed for non-deterministic information system. So what is non-deterministic information system? The information system, what I have defined earlier, it is called deterministic. So each object takes a value for attributes. But there is a generalized object take a set of attribute values instead of one. Such a information system is called non-deterministic information system. So logic NIL presents a logic for non-deterministic information system. The language has model operators and descriptors as well. So, and these were the sound and complete deductive system presented for logic NIL. But there was a problem. Problem was that if you see the indissolubility relation, what we have defined, it is related with the attribute value pairs. So that relationship should be reflected by the relation between this model operator and descriptor. But we don't see a single axioms here which relates model operator and descriptors. And as a consequence of this, the relationship between indissolubility relation and attribute value pairs is not captured through this logic. So these two identity indissolubility relation and attribute pair were isolated entity in this, treated as an isolated entity in this language. So this was a limitation for this logic. So after going through all these things, natural question, what kind of logic we actually want for the rough set theory? So these are the four properties we have proposed we would like to have. First, the semantics should be directly based on information system. Second, language need to include attribute and attribute value constants. This will enable us to talk about attribute values of the objects. And we also require approximation operator. Language we want logic. We want the logic to be able to capture the approximation operator. And these approximation operator of relationship between these approximation operator and attribute and attribute value should be captured by the logic as well. So all these three properties we want, and finally we want such a logic to be have a sound and complete deductive system. So the first proposal of such a logic was presented in this paper where a logic LIS for determinist information system was proposed. So this language, as expected, has attribute value in the language. So descriptors. Apart from descriptors, we have box operator. Now instead of box, I use box B. So it's like indexing box B. B is a set of attributes. And semantics is directly based on information systems. So model will consist of information system and evaluation function, and an object X will satisfy AV if and only if object X take the value V for the attribute A. That is this way. And all the relation, this one is the usual one. To evaluate box B alpha, we make use of indiscernibility relation. And this logic is shown to be sound and complete with respect to these deductive system axioms. So the first two axioms are the standard one. This one is the axiom K of normal model system, axiom K. And this A3, A4, A5 is the S5 axioms for the model operator 5. And this relations A6 and A9, A10, this gives the connection between indiscernibility relation or model operator corresponding to different set of attributes. And these A7 and 8 capture the fact that each object take precisely one attribute value for each attribute. So this was the idea of all these axioms, and it is shown, the logic is shown to be sound and complete with respect to this. Moreover, the logic is also shown to be decidable. Once we have this system, it opens a new direction. Many important things we can do now due to this logic. First is that this language can be used to capture the concept related to dependency in data and data reduction. If you want to see more on this topic, then you can have a look to that. And then this logic was also extended to obtain a logic for incomplete information system. So in this information system, we see we have in all the information regarding all attributes of object. But in some practical problems, some of the information may be missing. For example, we may not have information regarding the experience of the candidate O2. So such a information system is called incomplete, where some of the information may be missing. So this class of information system is well studied in literature as well. So logic for such information system is also obtained. Update logic for information systems. As I said earlier, this work has open many directions. So an update logic for information system means, suppose we have some information, some of the information is missing currently, but sometime later we may get the new information about this one. So once we incorporate those new information, we obtain a new table. Our indiscernibility relation is going to change. Approximation operator is going to change. So can we have a logic that can capture this update of the information systems, and where we can compare the approximation operator earlier and the updated one, and so on. So we also have a logic which can do these sorts of things. So how much time do I have? If I don't have much, then I would like to stop here. Otherwise, I can go to multi-granulation offset model.
I think you can continue.
I can continue. How?
Yeah.
Okay, I can have 10 minutes, around 10 minutes.
Hello.
Yes,
I
sir.
can have 10 minutes. Okay. So the last topic, I was not sure if I will be able to cover that one or not, but since I have 10 minutes, I would just like to talk a little bit about the multi-granulation dubset model or multiple source. So till now, whatever the system I have presented, it has a one source, but we may have a situation where information may be obtained from a number of sources instead of one. Okay. So each agent or source is going to come up with their own knowledge base. So in order to capture such a situation, one can have a domain W and a collection of relation corresponding to each source. So this line of research in last 10-15 years, lots of work is done, I think last 10 years, on multi-granulation rough set model. You can search on Google multi-granulation rough set model and you will obtain a number of results. So there you have a domain and you are obtaining information from different sources, and each source is having their own knowledge base. And let us call such a tuple to be a multiple source approximation system. In such a system, we have this notion of strong and weak lower and upper approximation operators. In literature, these are also known as optimistic and pessimistic approximation operator as well. So both are equivalent, strong lower approximation or optimistic pessimistic approximation operator. So what is a strong lower approximation? It's actually the intersection of all the lower approximation of the set with respect to the knowledge base of different sources of the system. And weak lower means it's a union of lower approximation of X with respect to knowledge base of various knowledge base of different sources of the system. Similarly, we have this notion of strong and weak upper approximation operator. I'm not going in detail property of these operators, because I just want to show logic for this one. So the first logic appear for such a system which can be used to capture these approximation operator. Of course, ACE5 or multimodal version of ACE5 will not be able to talk about these approximation operator. We need something else, something more. For that, first order predicate model logic was introduced. It was named LMSAS to talk about these approximation operator, and that logic was very expressive. In fact, that logic can express things which even first order logic cannot express. Because that logic captures relation as well. It has a quantification purpose, expressive power, and that expressive power comes with a price. We don't have decidability result for these logics. So then the next question was, okay, fine, that logic has a very good expressive power. It can express so much things, but can we obtain logic which have nice properties as well? We don't want that much expressive power. We want to talk only about this strong weak lower approximation operator with some restrictive expressive power, but some nice properties. With the hope of that, recently, I think in 2018 or 19, we have explored such a problem as well. So we kept a very simple language, the basic model language again, that is Boolean connectives and one unary model operator box alpha. And what we did, we first proposed a logic for a strong lower approximation and another one for a weak lower approximation. We have not combined these two. So we consider the same language, and as expected, model is going to be based on MSS and a valuation function. And if you see, earlier box alpha was taking one relation, but now here the relation is taken to be the union. I belongs to an Ri. So MW satisfy box alpha if and only if all W prime which can be reached from W by any of the relation of the system. There we want alpha to be true. This is the idea. Any of the relation of the system. And one can easily verify that truth set of box alpha is nothing but the strong lower approximation of box alpha, and diamond alpha it is weak upper approximation. So this semantics is able to capture, through this semantics, box capture the strong lower and diamond capture the weak upper approximation operators. So next problem was axiomatization. What will be the axiomatization of such a logic? So we have two systems. If you see, the language is same, and we have seen satisfiability relation defined on Kripke frames, and we have just present a satisfiability relation defined on MSAS. So natural question is there any connection of this satisfiability relation defined on these two different types of sets? Answer is yes. So let us see what is the relation. So let us denote by K the set of all MSS and B by the set of all tolerance frames, that is reflexive and symmetric frames. Consider this map from K to B. It maps a frame, this one to this frame, and this frame you can check that this is going to be a reflexive and symmetric relation, union of Ri. So it's a map from K to B, and it is shown that this map preserves satisfiability relation in the sense that alpha is true at W if and only if alpha is true at W in the model SciPhi. So this first one, if you see, this first one is F is coming from F is MSS. So the first, this one is in satisfiability relation in MSS, and this one, second one is satisfiability relation on Kripke frame, which I had defined at the beginning. So we have this definition. So what does it mean? It means satisfiability in a MSS implies satisfiability in a tolerance frame. Why? Because each MSS is of course satisfiability in a tolerance frame. Easily, one can easily show that using this one. If it is satisfiable in MSS, then the formula is going to be satisfiable in Psi F frame, and so it's satisfiable in tolerance frame. What about the converse? That is, if alpha is satisfiable in a tolerance frame, can we say that alpha is satisfiable in MSS? Answer of this one will be yes, if we could show that the map Psi is surjective. That is, this map is surjective. If we could show, then we are done using the same this theorem. But we don't know. We are not able to show that this map is surjective. So what to do then? At that time, another property came to our rescue. This property is finite model property. What is finite model property? We know that a well-formed formula in a tolerance Kripke frame is satisfiable if and only if it is satisfiable in a finite tolerance frame. This result is known as finite model property. Okay, so since we have this result, we have shown that, and we are able to show that if we restrict to the finite models, then the function is two maps. We are able to show that the map, when we restrict on the finite model, itself becomes surjective, and hence this converse result is also true. So what we are able to show, we have shown that the strong lower and weak approximation is the KTB. KTB is the logic for reflexive and symmetric frame consisting of these axioms I have highlighted. So the logic for, if we want to talk about the logic for strong lower and weak upper, we don't need to go beyond KTB. KTB is enough. And KTB is already well studied logic. It has decidedly all the properties. So we get all this property free. So another interpretation we got for box. The interpretation is strong lower approximation. So next question is, can we have similar nice result for weak lower and strong upper approximation? Answer is no, we are not able to obtain such a nice result for strong weak lower and strong upper approximation. I will not go in detail. I would just like to add that we are able to show that for weak lower and strong upper approximation, the logic for this one lies between MTS4 system and model system S5, but it I mean what it will be exactly, we are not sure. We don't have the answer for that one. Okay, so I just end my talk here with some conclusion. As I said earlier, if you see, I have whatever I have presented here, I confine to equivalence relation only. But in literature, you can find study on other type of relation as well. We are able to obtain axiomatization for strong lower approximation, but axiomatization of weak lower approximation, we don't know. Similar things for these operator for different kinds of relation as well. Third is that I have presented logic and rough set model based on relation, but there is another family of generalization of rough set based on covering, and the model logic or logic for such a system is also well studied. So, but there you have many more operators which are axiomatization of which are still pending. So if anyone interested, they may explore that direction as well. The axiomatization of operators based on covering frames. Okay, with this,
Thank you.
in my talks, if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you, Professor Mohammad Akil Khan sir,
Yeah.
for your nice presentation and talk on such an interesting topic. Now I open this session to the audience for question and discussions. In the audience, if anyone want to ask any questions to the professor directly, they can ask.
Dr. Akil Khan, thank you very much for such a nice talk. Just one thing I want to know about fuzzy rough sets and fuzzy model logic. Have these two models been studied?
Fuzzy rough set and rough fuzzy set. Actually,
Yes.
if you find in literature, fuzzy rough set as well as rough fuzzy set, you have these notions. Okay.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. As far as the model logic,
is some study in your knowledge? Can you refer me some paper? Can you give me some reference?
yeah, I can refer you. One well-known paper is by I just missing.
Okay. If you don't remember, then you may write in WhatsApp,
well, I can.
please.
Paper title is, as far as I remember, paper title is Fuzzy Rough Set and Rough Fuzzy Set. If you Google it, that paper will come.
Yes, that's very famous paper. That's very
yeah,
famous paper. I know.
DUBOIS by Du Bois, that paper.
Yes,
So,
yes, I have that paper. I have studied that paper. But I am more interested in fuzzy model logic.
As far as model logic concerned, not familiar with. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not familiar. But of course, you see, there are some works where this model operators are indexed with fractions and this kind of thing. Okay. To capture some kind of probability. So usually what happens if you see the relation W prime, so all object which can be reached from W, they're true. So this instead of absolute, some indexing is done. So lambda, so probability of to reach from W to W prime something, if more than that, then it will satisfy something like that. So that may be helpful if they have. If just you can drop me an email, I can refer you.
Okay, thank you very much. I will put my email in WhatsApp group. Okay.
I have one question. as you mentioned that like in your talk, it was about model logic and rough set. So for S5 frame, there is a connection between the rough set, like the approximation space in rough set and the model logic. So as we have many researches based on approximation space and different kinds of structure, like where X is a set and R may be different kind of relation, or maybe some topological spaces, like set with some structures. So can you say something about other than relational structure approximation space, some other structure with the model logic, like maybe uh, topological space or some other space where we can have upper and lower approximation type of things?
Okay, nice question. So if you see at the end of my talk, I talk about a covering based rough set model. Okay, so there it's a generalization of relational based approximation, where instead of relation, covering is considered. So what is covering? Covering is a collection of subsets of domain. Their union is the set. So, and for this covering, there are many notions of lower and upper approximation operators, and model logic for those approximation operators are well studied. So one is Mihir Chakraborty and Pulak Samanta. If you read that paper, it has given around 14, 15 systems and model logic and what. Another paper on model logic for covering, you can have a look to Mihir Chakraborty and Mingui Ma. That will also give an idea. This is for covering. As far as you talk about topological, so this topology actually had topology semantics. It can talk about the interior operator, and this box corresponds to, and box diamond corresponds to interior operator and closure operator, and so yeah, that is another thing. And the other things are also neighborhood semantics is also helpful over there. And if you see the work of Pagliani, there he studied in detail topology, rough set theory through topological spaces. He has written one book as well, Pagliani. So that you may also have a look.
And one more question, like if we have a rough set with two sets, and that is known as concept analysis, like where we have a two X, Y, and R, other than having approximation with X and R. So, yeah, it's called concept analysis or something like that.
Yeah.
So how can we have something connection with this concept analysis, and there is a Galois connection in this upper and lower approximations there?
Yeah. Concept analysis, I myself have not studied that one, but as far as I know, some work is being done by Dr. Hua Banerjee, IIT Kanpur.
Like where we have a rough set with two universes rather than having a single universe, just X and R.
So I think I'm talking about concept analysis.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Once again, thank you, Professor, for giving us time from your busy schedule and deliver a lecture in our workshop.
Thank you very much.
Dear participants, it's all for today. Let us meet tomorrow at the scheduled time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.